Welcome back, horror family. I am sure you are familiar with the age-old saying, never judge a book by its cover. And though a nice sentiment when referring to people and sound advice on the perils of choosing friends and acquaintances purely on the vanity of looks, it is not always true when actually deciding on a new book or even a movie. For those of us that remember the good old days of video rental stores, the cover art was a major eye catcher when choosing our next horror flick. I remember cover shopping, looking at titles and images, creating a preconceived plot in my head, debating if I should pick it up and read the synopsis on the back. Especially 80s horror, when horror movie posters and VHS covers were basically an art form of their own. There are classic ones that stick in our head, and even though the movies may not have aged too well, the artwork displayed still lives on. Here are my top 10 favorite horror movie posters. Number 10. Silent Night, Deadly Night. This may not be even close to one of the best Black Christmas ripoffs. Combined with poor acting and over-the-top blood effects, this movie has not aged too well. It can be said the franchise was built on the controversy surrounding the film previous to release, and the cover art was no help in preventing that outcry. The menacing Santa arm wielding a shiny axe, insinuating that what you will find in your stocking will not be pleasant. If you are a fan of this poster, I would definitely recommend checking out Messed Up Puzzles. They have a 1,000-piece set that is just of the cover art picture, without the font. A challenging piece that may have family members scratching their heads when they see what is displayed on your kitchen table. Number 9. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I would rather not get into a debate about how good or bad this movie was. I enjoyed it. Despite its glaring flaws and questionable plot, the kills and characters are fun, and I really like Jason in this one. Anyway, the more widely distributed poster with Jason holding a knife over the cityscape of New York is awesome on its own. But my favorite is the I Love New York poster with Jason slashing through the sign. It's an incredible satirical horror take on the iconic tourist image, turning a pleasant, positive citywide message into a horrific scene of menace and terror, adding the gashed hockey mask in the top right corner, breaking apart the heart. Number 8. The People Under the Stairs. I remember the local video store near me had a full-sized cardboard stand of this, with the house popping out in front of the skull menacing above with the brief teaser sentence. As a 9-year-old boy, I would stand in front of it fascinated, reading the description, seeing the name Wes Craven over and over again, the scary font of the title below the house. I remember thinking that when I was old enough, I would be able to rent that. Thankfully, to nighttime television, I was able to see it, but every time I watch, the lasting image of this poster still burns in my mind. It is a perfect cover for a very intense and socially relevant horror film. Number 7. Creepshow. This movie was a fantastic marriage between two masters of horror. Just the name Creepshow in the ragged font seems almost like an insult, as if you were about to leave for the theater only to have a family member say, "Why do you want to go to that Creepshow for?" Then, when you reach the seemingly abandoned auditorium, you are face to face with this skeletal concierge with an inconspicuous grin. The artwork is right. It is the most fun you'll have being scared. Number 6. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, I cannot leave out this iconic piece of cinematic art. Our first introduction to Freddy, before we even saw Robert Englund with his searing face, a young girl with the claws stretching out in front of her, and the skeletal image revealing itself within her headboard. If there was an iconic image of 80s horror movie posters, this one would without question be it. I know that the film was a success, but I would like to think this beautiful poster was a partial reason why people bought tickets in the first place. Now we are getting into my top 5s, and there is one poster I cannot leave out. The Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives poster. The silhouette of the hockey mask with bright light fracturing through, a slight nod to John Carpenter's The Thing, the cracked tombstone front and center with the words Jason Lives, and then blood red title underneath. Many times imitated and even satirized, but this poster, this is a symbol of Jason, a true horror movie image that was well designed and deserves to be admired. Number 4. House. This is a personal favorite for me because as a kid I did rent it originally for the cover art, but found the movie inside that is now one of my go-to favorites. The corpse hand ringing the doorbell, and on some VHS tapes had a menacing saying, "Ding dong, you're dead." It is one of those posters that horror fans just look at and enjoy as visual eye candy. When I look at this poster, I sort of understand why bougie people stare at bland paintings on a museum wall. Number 3. Alligator. This one is another personal favorite for me. I was in Florida at my grandparents' video store and saw this cover art in the horror section all the way in the back corner. I was so excited, I think I watched it 3 times over that vacation. The video store located on a key on the west coast of Florida was the only video store I had ever been to as a child that had this film to rent. The memory of that box still sticks with me to this day. The hard plastic cover, that black imaging of a menacing alligator sitting in the sewers, you could just imagine the unsuspecting public aimlessly going about their day above it. It was a fantastic true play on the urban legend. I have this located on my wall in my office, and it still inspires me and makes me nostalgic for 80s horror cover art. Number 2, Jaws. How could it not be? Probably one of the most iconic and recognized posters in the world. Says everything yet still leaves questions unanswered. I have no proof, but I feel this was what inspired the start of the 80s horror cover art era. Studios realized that a picture spoke 1,000 words, and this poster was singing an opera of terror about a monster lurking below the surface. And of course, number 1 is Deep Star 6. Again, this is probably leaving some of you with your jaw dropped on the floor. For me, this is even more personal than Alligator. This again goes back to my days as a child in the video store, just staring at the cover art while my dad kept pushing me to just pick a movie already. The amount of times we rented Deep Star 6 when I was a kid, I am surprised my parents didn't just fork over the $90 to buy it. And to those of you born after a certain date, yes, movies cost about $90 to own a few decades ago. That half-torso dive suit echoing one of the best scenes in the film, the underwater station in the background, and then that tagline, "Not all aliens come from outer space." Another poster I have hanging on the wall of my office that I look at like a pretentious art aficionado, just enjoying the mix of nostalgia and inspiration that I feel every time I look at the critical piece of 80s cover art. I am hoping to one day have this poster signed by Sean S. Cunningham. Then this magnificent design will be perfect. So I am sure each of you has your own list of favorites, so before the anger starts pouring in, remember this is just my subjective opinion. I'm interested in yours, so let me know in the comments section below, and as always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Stay scared.